It'll go. All right, you're good.
Okay. Hi, I'm Sandy Stone. I'm stepping in for Chris at the last minute because he was overwhelmed with work. So we're going to talk about Stalag 17 by Billy Wilder, released, I believe, in 1953. Billy Wilder directed it, and he co-wrote it based on a play. I believe that was on Broadway, a play that was actually written by two actual POWs about their experiences, although the movie strayed significantly from the play, completely different plot. But interesting point of trivia, one of the original playwrights of the play that was based on is part of the cast of this movie. He's that guy that keeps saying, I believe her. Why wouldn't I believe her? He's one of the playwrights of the stage play that this was based on. So, all right. So with no further ado, Stalag 17. Shall we just start with the 4 through lines? Overall story. Anyone synopsize the plot of the story in a few words?
God, there seems to be 2 threads that are going on. It's I would think the main issue is who's the stoolie.
Who's the stoolie?
Yeah.
Okay, there's a stoolie in the barracks, right? An informant. Let's see, I don't know how to spell stoolie, but
I.e.
Okay. Oh. It's probably with 2 O's. Okay.
Yeah.
Stoolie in the barracks. All right. And you said there seemed to be another thread?
Well, there was getting Dunbar out.
Well, and that's tied to the stoolie because Dunbar is threatened because there is an informant who's getting information and passing it on to the commandant, which allows them to know that Dunbar is guilty of blowing up the train, and therefore they're going to take him away. The SS is going to take him away. So the fact that there is a stoolie, I think, do you agree that seems to be the primary central source of conflict?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Great. Who's the main character?
Sefton, or is that his name?
Sefton, the William Holden character?
Yeah.
Is there anyone else who could be considered the main character here?
Not really.
Bob, do you have the same impression?
Okay.
What's interesting here, and what kind of throws you off, when I saw this the first time, I didn't really look at it analytically, but I was still kind of thrown off by the fact that the opening narration is like, who is this guy? Who's narrating? So usually when a guy's narrating, you feel like he's the guy you're going to, be closest to. And then it's like, I don't know if that guy was supposed to be the assistant. Just, I don't know. Anyway, but Cookie?
Wasn't it the guy that was the barracks chief? The guy that was the head of 17?
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was not clear.
Cookie was the one, like, at the end that he was talking to.
Well, Cookie was Sefton's assistant.
Yeah.
So I don't know. So I'm not sure who did the narration. All right, but
at the beginning, I think he says, "Everybody calls me Cookie. My name's Cook.
Okay.
Everybody calls me Cook."
All
was that kind of diminutive, like kind of the quiet little, kind of shy guy, I guess.
Right, not the guy playing the ocarina,
No.
but the guy who was sort of assisting Sefton with his stuff.
Mm-hmm.
No, anyway, but I'm not sure. But still, I mean, there doesn't seem to be any kind of point of view expressed from that guy.
Mm-hmm.
The only point of view it seems to be a relatable point of view, I think, is coming from Sefton, right?
It is Cookie, by the way.
Oh, it is.
According to Wikipedia.
Okay. So
Cookie's the one.
Cookie's the narrator.
Uh-huh.
It's Gil Stratton as Clarence Harvey, or Cook narrator.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's interesting. So he's actually the guy who is closest to Sefton in the barracks. So there is, I think there is a little.
See, there was at one point though, he's really not empathetic, but he's not somebody that I can relate to.
Well, he's not a likable person, and that's part of what defines who he is. Sefton.
Yeah.
Right.
In fact, like when he's betting at the beginning, just going with the most probable or whatever, like taking the probability chance or whatever he's saying. I got the impression actually that he was going to be the influence character, and that everybody else in the barracks was kind of like a group main character, like a Blazing Saddles sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess later on, when he can see stuff that's going on that other people don't see, that kind of gets rid of that
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
Like when he sees the the light bulb all kind of twisted up and swinging back and forth, and then I guess he has information that that other group doesn't have.
That he's sharing with the audience,
Right.
or that we are sharing with him.
Yeah, because at first I was thinking, I thought it was going to be a huge discussion today about who the main character and influence character is, but he's just so distant. Like I just felt like I was watching him do things, and I wasn't really emoting with his situation.
Mhm.
Except, I guess, when he got beat.
I know, and I agree. That's why it was, to me, where I'm anchored, in terms of, anchored empathy-wise. It was a little, I wasn't emotionally anchored into anybody until later in the movie, when it kind of became clear that we are sharing his point of view. So I think, by the end of the movie, I think we're clearly with Sefton, but in kind of the first half, we're still kind of watching from a distance.
Yeah, he just seemed to have like a very different way of thinking than anybody else.
Yeah,
he's just like Mr. Cool.
Well, if he is the main character, then who is the influence character?
That's the group, right?
The group. Okay. The rest of the barracks.
Everybody who's angry all the time. They're really angry.
I was jumping back and forth between that or the bad guy that they're killing.
Price.
Price.
Oh.
Okay, but in terms of an emotional relationship, obviously he turns out to be the antagonist of the story. But I guess if you say if there's any kind of change steadfast arc, all right, if one character is influencing other to reconsider their point of view, between Sefton and somebody else, it's kind of the group. And what's so it's the rest of the barracks basically. The group. I'll just say the group.
Is there any one person like Shapiro or Animal or?
Well, I think they do act as a plural, but what's interesting is the guy I believe they call Duke seems to just in terms of his how do I say his emotional impact on Sefton and on us. There's one guy who's kind of leading that charge, and that's the guy. He's kind of got a half beard, and I think he's the angry guy. He's the angry guy. Yeah, he's not the barracks chief, but he kind of acts like a leader of the group. Right. So he's kind of the lead. Here's the thing. I think it is the group, but I think not dude. This is not the Big Lebowski. Duke is kind of leading that charge in terms of being an emotional impact. All right. And what's interesting about that is, and I'm already jumping the gun, to the resolve, but let's go ahead and talk about it. Is Sefton a change or a steadfast character? Steadfast. Does everyone agree with that?
Yeah.
What is the evidence of a change?
It's like at the very end, right? It seems like the group doesn't change until like the beginning of the third act.
Well,
well, I guess that's about the right
that's the way. Well, it's either a slow change or it's a
quick one.
Leap of faith flip.
Mm-hmm.
Although when it's an impact character, it's not technically a leap of faith. But you definitely see that once they realize that they were wrong and Sefton was right, okay, then their attitude toward them shifts. And the main evidence of that, which I thought was rather striking, is, well, to coin a pun, he goes up to the guy, to Duke, and Duke basically apologized to him without saying it in so many words, but then Sefton like struck his match on him, or like on the side of his head or something, and he didn't mind, and he even like smiled, which I thought was an interesting choice. because once you're angry at a guy, it's really hard to get over being angry with a guy. But he switched in that moment because he realized, okay, Sefton actually is one of the good guys, and I didn't mind that he struck a match on me. All right, so I think that's the visually the most striking evidence that that we have a change impact character.
Which is, that I said beginning of the third act, but it actually is like kind of like toward the end. Because when that happens, which is the cap to the change, is like almost like right before the denouement of the movie.
Well, it's when Sefton volunteers.
Yeah.
When he comes up with a plan to, save Dunbar and get Price killed, then and he's still being the same person. He's still being conniving, but and he's still kind of being self-interested.
Mm-hmm.
But they're coming around to say, okay, he's one of the good guys. They come around to respect him, and the little whistling of Johnny Comes Marching Home at the very end is kind of acknowledgement that Sefton's kind of our hero. I think that was kind of the implicit message in that a little bit. Real quick, what's with Sefton as the main character and the rest of the barracks, the impact character, what is the relationship story between them? What is that through line? What we call the emotional argument, subjective story.
Sort of false assumption or false accusation that the group has towards Sefton.
Okay.
What is that?
What is that in?
False accusation
Oh,
or false assumptions, like you said. What were you gonna say, Jim?
Isn't that part of the OS though?
Well,
Like with the
yes,
relationship-
there is, but there's still that sort of anger between him and everybody else.
But because why? Like what? I'm not saying that that's not what's explored, but what is the actual relationship there?
Yeah.
Like the family of
Is it
Sarah?
like
Is that-
like foxhole buddies or
Okay.
your fellow soldier in arms, something like that.
Right, Barrett's family. Yeah, and the tension that arises from that close proximity and from that, and the fact that, I mean, part of what defines Sefton as a main character, he is kind of out for himself. He's very cynical, right? He's going to take bets on whether these two guys are going to make it out alive or not. That certainly sets off, a lot of the anger between them and him. It's all wrapped up in that, and this is not projecting, a dynamic point, but it's just like, we don't like your attitude. And it's like, hey, I'm just trying to be pragmatist about this. Trying to be pragmatic. So there is kind of, they don't like his attitude. And on top of the fact that they're trying to, they assume he's the stoolie, but it's the emotional argument has to do with, he's cooking eggs in front of them. He's got this footlocker full of stuff. There's some deal where I guess he got a trip to the Russian women's barracks or something. There's something he did late at night. He came back and they all resented him. So there's a lot of resentment.
It's almost like a black sheep.
Yeah, he's kind of the black sheep. So it's that emotional conflict layered on top of what's going on objectively. All right, so we know that the main character is steadfast. That's pretty clear.
How is he steadfast? Just for completeness' sake.
How is he steadfast?
He's just as much of a. He seems to be one of those gambling type of guys that's always not plotting, but like conniving.
Okay.
And he's doing it at the beginning when he places the bet on the escapees, and he's doing it at the very end, when he places the bet again. Just his whole attitude when he's leaving is like, Like, if I run into you guys in the street, don't pretend you don't know me. He's still a jerk, you know.
Yeah, he's still a jerk.
Yeah.
He's still kind of on his own. He's still, but then that sort of self-serving, loner, kind of stance actually serves the plot of the story. It actually, helps achieve the desired outcome, which is, saving Dunbar and getting the informant killed without getting themselves, hurt in the process. All right. So do you think that covers?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want.
Okay. Is Sefton a doer or a beer character?
He's a beer.
And how would you illustrate him as a beer?
I just felt like he was kind of reacting to their attitude toward him, and he wasn't really part of any of the conniving or like the plotting or the sneaking around. The way they kept the Germans from knowing exactly what was going on, when they hid Dunbar, when they came up with all the little things like the ground up ping pong balls and like all these things to drive the Germans crazy or whatever. And he was more like observing everybody. So it struck me that he was kind of like a beer.
Okay.
Isn't it too all the stuff that you said before where he's kind of a dick? He's like he's just a jerk. From the very beginning, and the thing that was off-putting to me is just like he's just cold and aloof. And that kind of stays consistent throughout.
I mean, we know
it has
that
the biggest impact on everybody because it's like, why don't you care about these guys? It's
right.
Like it's like I'm not going to stick my neck out for anybody. That kind of attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Bob, do you think he's a doer or beer?
I don't know.
Okay. I honestly think it's a little hard for me to pin it down.
Yeah,
What's your opinion?
I guess if I was going to argue he's a doer, it seems like he's doing a lot of things that he's, gambling and he's moving around a lot.
Okay. Well, we know that, here's the thing. We know that he's, or at least part of the backstory is that he's staging the rat races.
Yeah.
He's, we know that he's trading with the Germans and he's collecting a lot of crap in his footlocker. But that aspect of him doesn't seem to be as impactful on the present day story as the fact that he is kind of sitting back with an attitude and kind of being cynical.
How weird is that he's like off with these Russian girls, but we don't spend any time with him?
That's why it's hard
weird
for him to be a main character. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Are you sure he's the main character?
Well,
because I totally forgot about that. That's the weird part. It's like he's gone, and then it's like they see. Because my thing I was thinking was like, we're the group because we don't know who really did it, and maybe this guy did it, and we're totally assuming that it's him because he's got this bad attitude, and then he wins us over in the end, and then we flip.
Can you flip those two around? Because what you just said makes me realize that maybe the group is the main character trying to survive, and he's the impact character that they resent and is sort of reacting to or not reacting, but he makes a move after he sees the moves that they make, as far as like the gambling and where he stands with the group. So can you flip those around and it would still work or work better?
you can't. I mean, you can't have a group be the main character. There are a few examples. It's tricky. It's like the Avengers movie, first Avengers movie. It's like the group of superheroes are all kind of the main character, or like the South Park movie. It's kind of a group main character.
Blazing Saddles.
Well, Blazing Saddles, isn't the town considered to be the impact character, and the Black Sheriff is the main character?
Oh, okay, yeah, I have it backwards.
See that? I mean,
Can we just wait and maybe consider it?
Yeah.
Just assume that everything will be opposite if it's the other way.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like,
Yeah. It's easy to flip, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'll give you an example. Like Grease. All right. There's obviously two central characters, right? There's Danny and Sandy, but which is the main character and which is the impact character? Well, it depends on who you ask. They're so equally developed in terms of a point of view. That's like you ask a girl, she's going to say Sandy's the main character. You ask a guy, he's going to say Danny's the main character. And so what you kind of end up with is two story forms. One with, Danny's the main character. It's clear who's changed. It's clear that Sandy is the one who changes in Grease. All right. But is she the main character or the impact character? Again, depends on who you ask. So you kind of, realize, well, it's not so important who's in this kind. It's more important who is changed and who is steadfast. To the audience, it's not so important. If both characters are kind of equally well developed or equally not well developed, the audience doesn't care whether they're here or here. So,
but he does so many things off screen. That's why it's not like Grease, because it's.
I know, and again, that's why I had. That's why I think it is hard to name. I mean, it's. Let's keep going down and see. I'm just going to put a little question mark. We might want to flip those. We know that the group is change character, and we know that Sefton is steadfast. All right, and so and keep in mind. Okay, so if Sefton is the beer character, that means that the group is the doer character, or vice versa, which makes more sense. Does that make more sense? That he would basically represent the beer argument, and the group would represent the doer argument.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what makes them the doers?
You beat the crap out of somebody.
All right. Well, and then they start out. They send the two guys off to escape.
Yeah.
Give them the clothes. Lead them to the tunnel. They're clear. I mean, they celebrate Christmas. They're constantly planning things and
Getting the radio and
right,
trading something for the radio, and coming up with all.
Okay, so calling them the doer makes more sense than calling them the beer, right?
I think
yeah.
So, right? Everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Do we? And this one I don't think will make a difference. On who's change. Yeah, so what's interesting? Change or stop start. We'll come back to that. Linear or holistic?
It's 1950.
A bunch of guys in lower. I think either way, it's probably
Yeah.
There's
no holism anywhere.
Yeah, unless you want to say, Sefton is going off his intuition. It's like my gut instinct is that they're going to lose, but I don't know if there's much more evidence than that for a possible, intuitive point of view as opposed to logical. All right, let's keep going down. Story driver, action decision. What's the inciting incident, and what helps drive the plot? What are the events that drive the plot?
The escape. And
And
then it ends with the escape.
then the Germans shoot them down. All right, that's pretty action oriented. What are some other examples?
Of an inciting incident.
Or a plot, or an act turn, or a major.
So the end when he escapes, right?
Right, and the stoolie gets killed.
Okay.
And, when Dunbar and his partner arrive.
Yeah, and then when they're taken in, or they come in and say the SS is about to come and take them away.
Yeah, that.
So, yeah, I don't know. Let's see, what's the transition for the first to the second act? I don't recall exactly, but it feels like an action-oriented.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's really not much decision making that's really significant that really turns the plot. Okay, story limit, option lock or time lock, and why is it an option lock?
An option lock because when they find the snitch, that's the end of the movie,
Right. Who's the snitch?
Yeah.
Right. You only have, it's like a murder mystery. You have a set of suspects, you know, and according to, you know, some of the stuff I read about this movie, again, Billy Wilder, you know, and his writing partner came up with a completely different plot. So than what the play was. And they didn't reveal who the informant was until like the last few days of shooting. So the cast didn't even know until late in the game. So that's kind of, again, classic whodunit type of thing, which is very option lock.
Why doesn't the movie end when they find out who Stooley is instead of
when he gets killed?
Yeah, because there's actually a time limit before that guy's gonna. Well, I guess.
There really isn't a time limit. We know that's Christmas Day. I mean, we know the war's going to end in 4 months, but they don't know that. So there's.
I guess if they hadn't put Dunbar in the water tower, and it was just leading up until the.
But it's very common to throw in a ticking clock factor at the very climax of the movie, in the third act. So that doesn't count as a time lock because the time lock has to be established in the first act.
Okay.
And if for some reason they say we have to find out who the Stooley is by Christmas Day, and then they keep reinforcing that, but they don't do that. But again, it's about, you know, somebody is a Stooley, somebody's an informant. It's probably Sefton, but then again, it could be him, it could be him, it could be him. They do that a couple of times actually in the narration.
Yeah.
So what's the outcome in judgment?
Success, good.
Good.
Success good? Yeah. And why is it good?
Find out who the Stooley is.
Well, okay, yeah. The answer would be slightly different for each character, but you know, Sefton gets out basically, if he's the main character, gets out kind of with the self-respect, and the group, you know, appears happy that things have been resolved, that they found the you know the enemy within. So
They murdered him.
well, they let the Germans murder him, but it's payback.
I know, it's still.
It's payback for murdering their 2 colleagues.
No, it's
So-
still
Right.
Don't forget the 10 grand.
who's the 10 grand?
Yeah, they get a 10 grand reward for delivering Dunbar to his rich $20 million, $25 million.
Oh wow, I don't remember that.
That was
hilarious.
very.
10 grand in it, but I wasn't sure exactly what was going on when somebody said that.
It was very.
Just thrown in there.
It kind of, yeah. It was.
He finally, what does he say? Like something like dinner's gonna be my treat, or I'll buy you a drink, or something like that. It's like, oh, you're not gonna get off that easy. Like implying that you're gonna pay that $10,000.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I know that was very subtly thrown in there. I remember something about $10,000, but I didn't kind of
Yeah,
pick
it
up
was
on it.
very weird.
So, but again, Sefton, he's still being very self-interested.
Mhm.
But in this case, his self-interest, and again, I'm not predicting any time now, but again, his self-interest is now benefiting the rest of the group. So, so we want to line up the domains with the through lines. So let's start with the OS between situation, activity, manipulation, and fixed attitude. There's just the plot of trying to figure out who's the Stooley.
That's obtaining, right?
Well, obtaining learning, but we'll get down to that level in a minute. That would be under activity.
Yeah.
So okay. Any other calls on that one? Finding out who the Stooley is, dealing with the commandant, receiving the lieutenant who had just blown up a train, and trying to protect him from being punished by the Germans.
I think the overall story has to be a situation
Situation.
because it's not a negative thing; it's a positive thing of action. They're actually trying to find out who is the person. They're not trying to do it by manipulation. So, and
So if it's a situation, that means that the situation is there's an informant among us.
yeah,
Once we get rid of the informant, then we've restored balance. Then we've resolved the case. That would be the argument for situation.
yeah.
All right. Other guesses? Other points of view?
Everybody's in the same situation.
All right. Let me go. Here, let me point out. It probably is in one of the external realms, situation or activity, because the relationship story would be diagonal to it, and it does feel like there's, that the relationship through the subjective story is in the internal realm, because we are talking about the resentfulness, the false accusations, the attitudes, I don't like your attitude kind of thing. So, and the more I talk about it, the more I don't know which one would be. So it could be in the attitude realm, or it could be in the manipulation realm, or psychology. Does one feel stronger than the other?
What's the situation for overall story?
If it is situation, I'm just to pick up on Bob's argument, is that there's an informant amongst us. All right, so that's a problematic situation. Once we get rid of the informant, then we'll be fine. But that still, honestly though, that still suggests that the reason the informant is a bad thing is because we're trying to escape. We're trying to plan things. We're trying to do things, and our efforts are being thwarted because of the informant.
Yeah,
So you could argue that the underlying conflict is we're trying to do things under the nose of the commandant, but he keeps finding out about it.
it's a process to actually figure out who this student is.
Yeah. Because honestly, if it was more of a situation story, and I'm not quite going to commit to it just yet, I'm still sort of arguing it out. But if it is situation story, it's more like we are stuck in this camp together, and once we're out, and it's like the Great Escape. Once we're out, well, although the Great Escape, half the movie is we're in this camp together, we're going to get out, but then the second half of the movie is running around Germany and getting chased by the Germans. Here, the source of the conflict is not, the source of the overall story conflict has less to do with we're stuck here. Oh my God, when are the Allies going to release us? It's more about, how are we going to help these guys escape? How are we going to help Dunbar escape? How are we going to create a diversion? How are we going to, so I'm leaning toward activity, personally. If we do put the OS here, I'll just make it tentative, then we would put the relationship story in manipulation, which is playing a role, changing one's nature, conceiving an idea, developing a plan. Whereas fixed attitude would be memories, impulsive responses, innermost desires, and contemplations. Now, one of those is going to be Sefton. One of those is going to be the relationship story. Which one of those sounds more like Sefton?
Fixed attitude.
Fixed attitude? Okay. I tend to agree. And I think there's a slightly stronger argument for that configuration rather than horizontally flipped.
I'm going to go along with you guys, but I just can't get out of my brain that they are in a situation, because a lot of it, for me, an activity movie is like, correct me if I'm wrong, is like Die Hard or something, that he's constantly trying different ways to save his ex. And this is
I'm sure we have an analysis of Die Hard somewhere. But the thing about Die Hard is the situation is his wife and her group of employees are being held hostage.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, you could define Die Hard as
a
a situation objective story, but you know, the Bruce Willis character is very much a doer. He himself is very much an activity character.
Okay.
I think. I don't know. I don't know what the analysis is.
To me, it's just like, and I'm not an expert on this, but just like watching the movie from beginning to end, it seems a lot of like a Billy Wilder, like he does in his movies. You're seeing them reacting to the situation they're in, like the guys dancing with each other and how they like have a still to like survive, and how they're all, the different personalities are reacting to the situation that they are in. And to me, it was like a
Right,
lot
but
of
you have to
story.
consider where is the source of the drama? Where is the source of the conflict? See, those things where they're dancing is not really addressing the central dramatic plot of the movie. You know, it's just it's part of the environment, but that itself is not pointing to the central conflict. The central conflict is that somebody is passing messages to Sergeant Schultz, you know, doing the thing with the light, you know, putting a message in the Black Queen, and then you know, the commandant takes actions accordingly.
Let me give you another example, and I don't want to like drift too far away into other movies, but like the Poseidon Adventure, isn't that a situation movie?
Yeah.
It's a situation.
And see, to me, this is vaguely similar to a movie or a story like that.
But if the situation is that there's a stoolie in the barracks, that would suggest that once he's dead, then that's the end of the conflict. But they're still escaping, like there's still conflict going on.
That's what I mentioned.
Yeah,
Oh, did you say that?
yeah, because of the escape. Because
Sorry.
again, we're framing the movie with an escape attempt at the beginning and escape attempt at the end.
Right.
And yes, it's good. You know, we're glad that the informant is killed, but the real success is that Dunbar and two guys get out.
Saved.
Two Americans get
Isn't
saved.
Poseidon Adventure where the boat's upside down?
Is what?
Isn't Poseidon Adventure where the boat's upside down?
Yeah, and I just think that you do see manipulation and bad guys and good guys with like their own selfish motives in Poseidon Adventure, but basically I've always thought the overall story was that all those things are occurring under the paradigm of that they are,
And then
all
upside
this
down.
stuff wouldn't be happening if the boat wasn't upside down.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it is a
I kinda
situation.
feel it,
That
yeah.
that is the inciting incident is the wave that tilts the boat over. Now we're in this shitty situation, and we have to climb our way up. You know, we have to do activities in order to respond to the situation.
Okay.
Here, I think the activity is the central conflict,
Okay.
and the situation is just kind of the environment.
So they're still in the camp at the end. So that would be like as if the boat didn't,
Mhm.
if they didn't escape the boat.
Well, let me, and that, I'll let you guys, like I said, I'll go along with it because there's a valid argument for that. But the only, because I was thinking situation, this is William Holden, right? If
Yeah.
This is the overall story.
So that if
See, to
William
me-
Holden is under fixed attitude, then the OS would have to be under activity.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because the impact character or influence character is always diagonal to the main character,
okay, I got.
and then the overall story and relationship story take
That's
the
what
other
I was saying.
diagonal.
Then I got to scoop because I was thinking situation because I mean to me he definitely has a fixed attitude.
Okay.
He's but I guess
Then
you're a
what happens is
gambler-
the group, the barracks, the rest of the barracks represent a situation
okay, I got
domain.
you. He is,
Okay.
but looking back, he is because he's a gambler and everything is based on well, what am I going to get out of it? That's pretty friggin' manipulative, I guess. So
Which would probably
yeah,
it's that manipulation between these two characters,
okay, all right,
him and everyone else.
all right.
So yes, you're right. There is,
I stand corrected.
yeah. I mean, there is a lot of psychology between him and the rest of the group. I mean, that's a pretty strong call, I think.
Okay, I get it.
Okay. So then we'll want to look down one level and consider, and again, we still have open the question of, is Sefton the main character or is the group the main character? One thing we could try to answer is the stop-start question. Okay, so when the story form is about a change character, it's about they change by stopping a negative quality or needing to start a positive quality. When you're talking about steadfast character, he's waiting for something outside of himself to stop or start. So Sefton is waiting for something to stop or start, especially in the rest of the group. And the group needs to stop or start something within, internally. So which does it feel like? Does it feel like more that something needs to stop in order to resolve the issues, or does something need to start?
Would William Holden's
You like stop?
I like stop.
For Holden or for the group?
Just like in general.
Oh, just in general?
It echoes out. It does echo out into the other.
Well, they need to stop accusing. He wants them to stop accusing him of being the stoolie. Is that valid?
Yeah.
Is that a legitimate?
No, I think so. And also, and I know this is technically not part of the theory, but you do see the stop-start dynamic, echo out into the other through lines. And I think if you look at the overall story, I think it is more, they're trying to stop the informant. They're trying to stop something negative as opposed to start something positive. And I think that's, also reflected in the dynamic between them. Something negative needs to stop. So if we pick stop, then we will have to switch the main and impact character. All right. So then it becomes a change story form with the group, the barracks, being the main character, the whole group of them. That's the barracks chief. That's Duke. That's Animal and Shapiro and maybe. Well, I mean, the Peter Gray's character, Price. Well, even he feels like part of the group. We don't know until about 2/3 of the way that then he's set off as the antagonist, and from that point on, we're not including him in our sort of personal point of view. But still, but the rest of the group still counts.
So the group that makes the stop is perfect because the group's trying to stop what they think is Holden from spying on them, and Holden's trying to stop them from accusing him of it. Okay.
Yeah.
Could you say that part again about stop the negative and start positive and how it filters out into the other three elements?
Okay. The definition of stop and start is slightly different whether you have a change or a steadfast character. Okay. When it's a change character, the stop start suggests you're looking at either a chip on your shoulder or a hole in your heart. Okay. Which stop chip on the shoulder. You got a negative attitude that you need to get rid of. Like Scrooge is a start character because his problem is not that he's whipping slaves. It's not that he's greedy. It's that he lacks generosity. And so the arc of that story is that he needs to develop goodness of heart, generosity. When it's a steadfast character, you're waiting for the world outside of yourself. You're hanging on to your paradigm, to your point of view, in hopes that the world outside of yourself will change, either getting rid of a negative or bringing about a positive. All right, and the way that affects the algorithm of the story form is that in a stop story, the main character and the OS are going to be horizontal to each other. In a start story form, the OS and the main character are going to be vertical to each other. So when we decided that this does feel like a stop story, then whatever is horizontal to the OS has to be the main character. Okay.
And then how do you see that filtering out into each of the through lines?
Because you do tend to notice that even though the stop start speaks mostly to the main character, you tend to see that, if it's a stop story, then the overall story tends to be about a negative thing that comes into the environment and creates a problem. A start story in the OS is about we're lacking something, and so we need to go out. I'm not smart enough, so I'm going to go to college, or we don't have enough food, so we need to go out and get the Holy Grail and bring about feast. So that's how it tends to echo out. And that's just an observation. It's not part of the model.
But it follows through because all the symptoms will be companions to the problem in every through line. So they will all have that stop dynamic.
Yeah, that in the algorithm, in the model, the problem and the symptom are horizontal to each other.
The problem in
a
each
stop
through line,
story.
so that's why. So he's right that it does filter out, and the reason for that is because each through line
Has
the symptom is companion to the problem.
okay, and then at the same time, the relationship story will be start the whole way through, right?
I don't know about that.
They have to be.
Well, the elements are still going to be like problem and symptom are still going to be horizontal to each other in a stop story form, or vertical and start story form.
Like it doesn't flip.
I
think you're asking something else, though.
Just
because the relationship story and relationship of the main character is vertical. So does that suggest there's a start dynamic between them? I don't know.
This is uncharted territory.
And that's one of those things where it's like, take it upon yourself to look at a bunch of examples and see, does this make sense or doesn't it?
But the way it's set up, like in the relationship story, it'll still be, the symptom will still be in that companion.
That's a good question. I don't have an answer.
Seems like you could define them.
Here's what's interesting. If you do investigate this question, something you need to look at are movies where the relationship through line is really up in front and the overall story is kind of in the background. Like a romantic comedy, Trainwreck or something like that. And if the relationship story is here,
Actually, the rom-com's perfect, right? Because almost always the greater antagonism in a rom-com needs to stop doing whatever's going on so that they can have their.
we have to look at G1.
The relationship needs to actually start for that to.
We have to look at each one on its own terms and see if there is a correlation between the relationship between the main character and the relationship story and a stop-start dynamic. I could write an article and tell us your findings. Look at a variety of examples and tell us your findings. All right. So if we go one level down, under the overall story and activity, we have understanding, doing, obtaining, and gathering information or learning. All right. A couple of those are really good. All right. But why don't we start with that? Anyone want to venture a choice there? I know what I like, but I'll wait. I know what I like too, so I want to say that.
I hope it's what I like.
I know. What does Brian and David and Bob like? And anyone who's online? No one's online, right?
Rusty on this.
Learning, obtaining, understanding, doing, and you see all of it.
Yeah.
You see a lot of doing, and obviously, doing is one of those things where you see them just going about the activities of prisoners of war. I mean, you see that a lot, kind of in the late second act. They're just doing things. They're having races. They're celebrating Christmas. All right. Obviously, obtaining. They're trying to get guys out. They're trying to get them free. Okay. Gathering information. I mean that's a big one because that's the passing along of the notes to the sergeant and then to the commandant. And how did he create the time bomb? Is a big question.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a lot of learning. There's a lot of gathering information, and the question is it the concern, or is it the benchmark, or is it just one of the signposts? Okay. That's true of all of them. For the group, for the barracks, our point of view character, which is the group of POWs, dealing with the past, the present, the future, and how things are going. Okay. For Sefton, which might be a little bit easier since he is kind of our central character, we have memories, impulsive responses, contemplations, and innermost desires. And when you look at him as an impact character, okay, how is he impacting the others most? Probably not memories.
Impulsive.
You do see a lot of impulsive responses, but
It's sort of, I guess a lot of innermost desires because they, like some they want to use women or they want the egg or they want.
well, but think about Sefton in particular.
But I mean, isn't that how he's impacting them? Like, I'm gonna cook an egg in front of you. I'm gonna go sleep with women in front of you. I'm gonna.
Well, I would say if he's like the biggest, most obvious choice for the guy who's doing everything, or the guy behind everything.
If he's the most obvious choice for being the stoolie.
Right. So then those issues of investigation, doubt, appraisal, and reappraisal would be the biggest thematic range.
So you're saying they're all thinking about.
Well, no, he's like, why do you think I'm the one?
Well, no. Look at the first thing he does. The first thing that Sefton does is come out and say, you know, who wants to put down odds that they won't make it? I'm betting against them. And it's like, you know, so he's actually thinking about it. He's just, you know, why are you putting that out there? And so I'm just, I just want you to think about it. You know, I'm just presenting the option that, you know, have you thought this through? There's a very strong probability that they're not going to make it, and I'm going to back it up with, you know, my contraband. And he keeps doing that throughout. You know, think about this. You know, you see it much more strongly toward the end, but even along the way he talks to them, he talks to them in a very coy way. You know, the way a William Holden would, but he's talking to them in a way that's sort of saying, you know, think about it this way. You know, think about it this way. So I you know, and they don't want to think about it. In fact, impulsive responses is probably a good candidate for benchmark, at least in the impact character. But I think in terms, you know, the nature of his impact from beginning to end, I do feel like Contemplations is where he's coming from the most.
Like everybody falls all over themselves when the lieutenant arrives, and he's like, "This guy's just."
Yeah, think about this guy. He's rich. He's privileged. He's not one of us.
Yeah.
Were you gonna say, David?
Oh no, I was just like thinking.
And you look at the impact character. You look in situation. Okay, yeah, you see a little bit of past address, but not much. And certainly, you know, future is a concern for POWs, but that's not the central kind of, you know, what we're talking about. And they are concerned about how things are going. You know, are we getting closer to informant? Are we getting closer? You know, are we going to be able to celebrate Christmas? Are we getting news from the POW? But no, it's about the here and now.
Yeah.
That's what they're dealing with most is dealing with each other and dealing with their circumstances in the here and now.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, work, attempt, attract, repel. I mean, attract, repel is really strong here, obviously, in terms of their relationship to Sefton. But I mean, present, that the here and now really seems to take over what they're about, which would put the OS into gathering information or learning, which, you know, I mean, you know, the evidence is very visual, and really is kind of consistent from beginning to end. Then the relationship story would be under conceiving an idea or getting or you know, wrapping your head around something. And I guess you could argue that, or do you have an argument for conceiving? In terms of
just how could you possibly conceive that I'm the one, or they conceive that he's behind it all?
Yeah. I mean, there are times. I mean, you do see developing a plan at certain points. So I think that's just a signpost. Changing one's nature. I think that the nature of the relationship does change toward the end. Playing a role, which is
a good one.
Which is about why, you know, it's sort of the position, you know.
Playing reluctant roles, because like Holden is playing the role of the stoolie. I mean, from the perspective of the group, and Peter Graves' character Price is playing the role of one of them, which he is not. Does that make sense, or does that put that in the wrong quadrant?
No, I think that definitely it. Yes, there's probably slightly better way to word it, but I do feel like playing a role is one of those things in terms of the relationship. It's the positioning between you and me, all right, that comes in a little bit more strongly at the end, which makes it feel like a benchmark. So yeah, I think playing a role or being, it's the proximity factor, I think that is definitely a defined part of that relationship. So so we'll see if it comes up as the benchmark, but it feels pretty strong. So how do I do this? Do I need to switch? I'm going to put everything up on the screen here. Let's see. Okay. Let me see if I can get this hooked in correctly. And now how do you feed into this?
I don't.
Oh,
I just
do it
mimic.
yourself. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let me try and get this. If you need to take a quick break, this is a good time. Well, I'll figure this out. I'm just assuming this is what he used because that's what he left for me. You wanna?
So that's a really specific.
Yeah,
Is this his laptop or
it's
yours?
round. This is Chris's. So
So I think that you would.
since I didn't know I could have brought my own, but I didn't know I was going to be.
That's an Ethernet cord. I think.
Nope. There's nothing on that side.
You need the lightning. It's in that bag, I think.
This one here.
In the small pocket. Isn't there another one in there?
No. Is this doing it? This is,
No.
That one doing
It's just a USB to lightning adapter.
Here's the thing. This is connected to the projector. This, I assume, goes to the CD player.
It doesn't just fit right there.
You think?
Not that one.
This one?
That one. No? What the hell?
It can only be one of these two.
What about on this shelf?
Shall this over?
Yeah.
That's a Ethernet.
Well, why don't you just run it off? We don't necessarily need the projector. You can just run it off there, and people just turn it. So
All
people
right.
can see. Oh, you know what? Here, let's do this. I have an idea.
What, put yours on?
No. Close though. Do this. Move that. Here. You got that one. Okay.
That's a good thing.
Oh wait, no, that's not gonna make a difference.
It's going to be the same.
Same thing.
So there was no other connector.
Oh, actually, no. This is yours.
Can't you just plug it into yours?
Yeah,
It looks like you have the adapter. Yeah. Here, I can see.
Wait one sec. Wait. I got it.
Wait, I got it. Hold on.
Thank you.
All right, you just try.
What's that?
Undo that white one. Okay. Probably the same, but I don't know. Maybe it's mine.
This is why VGA should be banned.
Would you want to see if that was worth?
Oh no, I got it.
Okay.
So I'll just do what you tell me to do.
Okay.
I've already plugged in.
I didn't speak to you. All right. I assume this whole section will be cut from you.
No. If you want to do it. Alright, hopefully this won't pork everything. Just give it a sec.
You won't have any problems running the other monitor and still recording the podcast, right?
Well, we'll find out.
Okay.
Is it on or did you just turn it off?
No, I turned it on. It went off on its own. I dialed off.
Oh. Hooked the projector up. This is the plug for the projector, not the monitor.
Oh, okay.
This is what I need. Yeah.
Well, for that matter, we could just go to the projector.
There. That'll do. Oh no. All right, here we go. There you go.
All right.
All right. So,
All right. So,
everybody squint.
I can see it.
Got it? Everybody's good? All
so
right.
for the main character, we'll put the barracks.
Oh, you want to do that? Okay.
Well,
No, I mean, I totally agree with that. I meant you want me to do this.
well, I was going to do that.
Barracks, okay.
And then the influence character will be Sefton.
And relationship is
the barracks family / black sheep.
Sure. Black sheep, okay.
And then the overall story is there's a stoolie amongst us.
Who is the? Is this how you do Stewie?
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to go with change.
Okay.
Stop.
Stop. Got it.
Doer.
Doer.
And linear.
Linear.
Action.
Okay.
Option lock. Success. Good.
Good.
So far, this is very archetypal.
This is a guy's movie.
Yeah, it is. And so we're putting the OS domain in activity
Okay.
and gathering information. Okay.
You got it. Okay.
All right. The benchmark is doing.
Oh.
Yay! That's what I wanted. And you know, if you haven't picked up on this by now, when you pick a concern in one domain, that you're picking all the concerns, but the same thing goes with the benchmark. The benchmark, once it lands in one position, lands in the same position in the other domains. Okay. So its goal is gathering information. Yeah, who's a stoolie? Consequence is conceiving an idea. Cost. Well, we'll get back to that. Well,
Can you quickly define benchmark for me? Because it's been a while, as far as like compared to the other elements.
right. Benchmark is sort of as you get closer and closer to resolving the concern, or resolving the story goal and success or failure, the benchmark becomes kind of becomes more and more intense. Kind of becomes bigger and bigger the closer you get to
It's sort of
to
like
the
a
climax.
test to see how you're progressing. Is that what a benchmark is?
I don't know about a test, but
Like an
Well, I
indicator?
think it can be.
it's kind of an indicator. It is kind of
Okay.
it is kind of a measurement,
Okay.
because the closer we get, the concern is kind of a static appreciation. It's concern from the inciting incident to the climactic resolution. It is just a concern, but the benchmark is kind of dynamic in that it gets stronger and stronger and stronger the closer you get to the resolution.
Okay.
In some movies, it even overtakes. The benchmark can even overtake the concern in rare cases. But like Planet of the Apes, where the past sneaks up on them in a huge way. But anyway, so
Okay.
but yeah, that's a benchmark. It just, what's interesting is you have a concern, which is static from beginning to end, benchmark, which is dynamic. But at the same time, you have all four of those types playing, being a signpost. So they're all acting kind of simultaneously.
Okay.
Which is where it can get confusing, because that's where it's like, oh, was this a benchmark, it's a signpost, or it's concern? Sometimes it's hard to tell. That's why you have to sort things out. So if we go to the theme browser, and I guess we can start with the OS, gathering information. So we're looking at the thematic variations of prerequisites versus preconditions, or strategy versus analysis. Okay. And honestly, you see a lot of that going on. I mean,
which one is that, Sandy?
that's the overall story. We're under activity and gathering information.
Oh,
So we're looking at prerequisites and preconditions. You certainly see a lot of the preconditions from the Commandant. The prerequisites you see, like, in terms of, the escape plans.
yeah.
But there's a lot of strategy and a lot of analysis going on too.
Yeah.
So the group of four is pretty good. So we want to look basically at the group of five here and see, if one of them, kind of sings better than the others. So we have prerequisites: certainty, potentiality, probability, and possibility. Probability is pretty good. That may end up being a main character or an impact character thing. Okay, we have strategy, proaction, reaction, inaction, protection. Okay. Analysis, we see deduction, induction, reduction, production. That one doesn't feel as good. Preconditions, we see acceptance, non-acceptance, evaluation, and reevaluation. So, the first two, actually, I felt like there's a lot going on there, more so than the bottom two. Do you have any?
Oh, I know which one I like a lot.
You know you like?
Yeah.
All right.
So, to me, this is the hardest part of dealing with Dramatica, is this selection. Like, every time I came down and did this, and then convinced myself to go back and switch to obtaining, because
those terms are really easier to wrap your head around. These, you got deduction, induction, what? Some of them are, probability and possibility are really good. Protection and inaction are really good. Proaction and reaction are really good. Certainty and potentiality, acceptance. Let's go down to the impact character. Let's go down to fixed attitude and look under.
That's exactly what I would have suggested. Because he's like super obvious.
All right. Now, one thing I want to point out, in the impact character, the variation, the thematic point, and the four elements underneath it don't necessarily go together in the story form. They do in the main character, and they do in the overall story. But in the impact character relationship story, sometimes these can get out of whack. Okay, so let's just look at the thematic variations first. Investigation versus doubt. Appraisal versus reappraisal. If one pair or the other feels better, then we know we can narrow it down.
So,
What do you like?
Investigation versus doubt.
Investigation versus doubt. What do you like?
I'm-
You like that one better? Do you like that one better?
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
Okay. If we go up to the main character, which is in situation, okay, we're talking about the group. We're talking about Duke and the barracks chief and everyone else. Fact and no, that's not.
Sorry. There, you're in the right spot now.
Okay, we have work, attempt, attract, and repel. Okay, we definitely see attract and repel. All right, there's a lot of repulsion going on. But if we pick investigation versus doubt, then their thematic pair, point and counterpoint, become work versus attempt.
Mhm.
Okay, does that make sense? Does work versus
It
attempt?
does, yeah. Because they're like activities that it seems like they're doing in the Stalag.
Can you remember what work and attempt means? Like, these are really specifically defined, right?
Right. There's. Do you have? Let's see.
Oh, sorry. It's got the. I can't get rid of that. Hold
Oh, you can.
It says hide
It
right
says hide
there.
right
on. Oh, does it?
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
There.
Applying oneself to something known to be within one's ability versus the attempt, which is applying something not known to be within one's ability. And it is sort of the Yoda argument of there is no do, there's no try, there's only do.
Yeah.
You know, that's a work versus attempt argument. So how would we see work and attempt play out in terms of the barracks group, the barracks family?
Well, there's the radio.
Mhm.
I guess, does that count as work in one scene and then attempt in another?
Yeah,
I think
trying to hide
totally.
it. Trying to hide it. They're always trying to hide things.
Yeah.
They're trying to get the guys out and to escape.
Mhm.
They're
Yeah. Okay.
So they're trying a lot of stuff, and then becomes a question of how capable are we of doing this, especially since we got an informant, especially since we have a mole in our midst. How good are our attempts?
Well, it's not like they're. Some people are trying to escape, but for the most part, they're just trying to see what they can get away with
See what
while
they
they
can-
wait for one side to win the war.
For
or
Patton to come
rescue.
liberate them.
Yeah. So,
Mhm.
Yeah, just all the stuff that they can get away with.
They're basically trying to see what they can get away with. So yeah, and then what's below that is inaction. This is for the main character only.
Oh, see,
Oh, you want to go with work?
I was arguing work, not attempt.
Okay, so then certainty, potentiality, deduction, and induction. How would you illustrate those? Either as problem, solution, symptom, response.
Right. Well, I mean, do you want me to?
Just what? Because honestly, well, let's see. Inaction, protection. I mean, I think there's a strong argument for protection.
Sure.
Driving
But
thing.
so this is just the main character, right?
This is the main character.
And
which
so
is the
they
group.
have their flaw, which is what?
Well, they're making
the group.
assumptions. They're making assumptions.
Jumping to conclusions, right?
Yeah, jumping to conclusions. Yeah.
Because what? Like who's? Because of why?
Because they don't like Sefton. They see him trading with the Germans and
Betting on
And
their
it's
buddies.
but it's like really obvious who's doing it all, right? That's their flaw.
that they think it's obvious.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
okay.
they know exactly who it is. It has to be him,
Mhm.
and so they're doing a fair amount of. I mean, the problem is
A fair
deduction,
amount of deducting.
and so
Yeah, that was-
I see what you're saying.
I was going to ask you what the definition of deductive specifically was, because that sounds like it makes sense, but what does Dramatica define it as?
Do you mean induction or deduction?
no, I mean deduction, and then the
And then
induction
induction.
is what they're doing.
That's the
Jumping to conclusions, right? Yeah.
Well, deduction is jumping to conclusions, but wait a minute. What is the definition for induction?
Induction is when you infer, like guess, right?
Deduction is a logical following from the premise to a conclusion.
So you're postulating, conjecturing that.
Go back to the top of that definition. A method of thought that determines possibility. So, okay. Now, were you going to argue as induction as the solution?
No, I was going to argue induction as the response.
Oh.
So that the problem is that they're completely certain of who it is.
So that would be
It's
deduction.
a bad deduction.
Yeah, it's they're absolutely, they have deducted from the evidence that they've seen and the way he acts that he's a jerk. That it's like it's got to be him.
That they're acting with certainty.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then it's like,
and then with a solution of potentiality.
yeah.
So that's what they switch over to at the end. That they see, in particular in relationship to Sefton, that they see his potential for being kind of
Heroic.
Yeah.
The potential that they could actually be wrong about something, you know, like
Yeah.
there's so much in there.
Okay. And those are all good arguments. Yeah. What are you gonna say, David?
Oh no,
Oh,
I'm just looking.
All right. Then to make sure that makes sense, let's go to the OS
Okay.
and
I thought they were horizontal.
Which two?
You just said
well, what?
So certainty would be the problem, right?
Well, certainty is the problem.
And
Then and
induction.
it's a change story form. Then certainty would also be the problem in the OS. In the change story form, the OS problem and the MC problem are the same thing, are the same terms, and
But
then everything else falls in line from there. In the steadfast story form, the symptom in the MC and the OS are the same. Okay.
But I think what you're asking is that what the horizontal relationship is, the problem and the symptom in a stop are the companion. So that's why I would say certainty is the problem, deduction is the symptom, and induction is the response.
We'll go under gathering information. Let's see. Okay, so we have prerequisites, certainty and potentiality, possibility and probability. Okay, well, probability comes up a lot. If probability is the symptom, then that will also belong to the impact character. Okay, so
That's actually how I did.
I like that.
No, I was just saying because the symptom and response are shared with the steadfast character. So
Yeah.
I was jumping ahead, like, because for me, if you go down to the influence character, like the first thing he says is like where he comes out of nowhere and he's this complete jerk opposed to everybody else is his whole probability argument. You know, like, oh, I'm just playing the odds, guys.
Mhm.
You know, and most likely they're gonna die. So who's up? Who wants to bet? You know, let's play the odds. And then everybody's like, you're an asshole or you're a jerk.
Well,
Sorry, Chris.
also, but that group of four also really, I think, strongly. If you pick probability as his symptom,
Right.
okay, his problem becomes inaction,
Just
which
perfect.
is he just stays apart from the group,
He
right?
doesn't do anything.
And he's still staying apart from the, even though he does kind of move over to protection in that I'm gonna through my inaction protect our lieutenant, even though I don't like him. But there's still that standoffishness that still works for him. That because in a steadfast character doesn't really move off the problem. The problem really just becomes a sort of a source of motivation. All right, Chris can explain it better than I do, but
source of drive.
source of drive, yeah.
Demotivator.
So and the solution is the demotivator, but you know, arguably, you know, he's, you know, I mean, you still see protection at play there, but he's not motivated by protection. He is motivated by, you know, if you see me on the street, don't say hello. You know?
But yeah.
You know.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I was gonna say even when he finds out, he's just sitting there waiting for the stoolie to make his move or what. I mean, he's still doing nothing at the end.
That's true.
But I like yours better, where it's like, if I see you guys, you know, don't even talk to me.
Right. But you're still recording, right? I mean,
Oh, I hope so, yeah.
Nothing's gone wrong with the podcast
I think so.
Okay. because you know sometimes you introduce a. Yeah, all right, so if we go with so that looks pretty good. Are we down to one story form?
Yes.
Shall we look at the report?
Sure. Do
see
you want to
if-
look at the relationship story first?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Because that one's
So we have the issue is permission. Okay. The issue for the impact character is investigation, I believe, right?
yes.
Okay. So All right, permission is interesting. Catalyst is need.
Well, couldn't permission, like, it seems like he gets to do whatever he wants to because he's supposedly in on it with the Germans.
Where's commission?
It's under manipulation and conceiving an idea. So say that again about permission.
Well, he can seemingly do whatever he wants to, and it's either because he's really sly and can work people over.
I know we were in.
Well, we're talking about the relationship through line. That's under manipulation and conceiving. That's what we're talking about. Is the relationship between Sefton and the others. The thematic issue, the problematic, argument is permission versus deficiency. And certainly, while everyone is lacking, he's enriching himself. He's sort of giving himself permission to.
Oh, you die. Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the need becomes the catalyst in terms of what sort of raises the ire of the argument.
He can fulfill a lot of needs
And he
in that
does.
relationship.
Yeah.
Well, and he's got the distillery, and
Mhm.
he's got this huge chest of needs that he can give to them. But then when they're like, the quickest thing to do is beat the crap out of you, that kind of slows things down a little bit in their relationship.
Well, and that's the inhibitor of.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's the
That'd be
one for
inhibitor of analysis.
Oh, okay. Then I would say their expediency in taking care of him prevents them from learning who actually is behind it all. But what I liked was like
expediency,
the problem of evaluation, where you're the stoolie, and then the solution is reevaluation. I mean, that's completely their relationship.
Well, that's the relation. Yeah, that's we've made an evaluation of each other.
Yeah.
Well, particularly them toward him, and it is pretty clear that a reevaluation is taking place at the end on their part. On the
Yeah,
group's
because they're
part.
like we're wrong. Like,
and
we were wrong about you.
He just struck a match on the side of my head, and now I'm smiling. So yeah, that's pretty good.
Can I ask you? I'm not, sorry, I was going to just ask real quick what you just brought. Is that considered a signpost? The striking of the match and like coming to the conclusion that he was like a good guy after all. Is that a signpost?
Well, in this case, it's the resolution of the relationship through line.
Okay.
So that's why we were talking about the solution, that what resolves the conflict between them is a reevaluation. He has compelled a reevaluation in them, and they did, and they say, oh, all right, he's a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's very clearly the intent in the last couple of minutes of the movie.
Okay.
That they have reevaluated. So you want to go to the story form
Before you
report?
do that, can you just do that symptom response to?
Well, we'll see it in the. You mean in the relationship story? Okay, so the symptom of probability, with the response of possibility. So first of all, it does echo the whole. I'm just bringing up the odds of our success. Just raises a lot of ire. All right, in the dynamic between them, and that's echoing the overall story and the impact character and the relationship. Okay. So it is kind of multi-appreciational, but there is that emotional element that, the problem between us is that, you think I'm probably the stoolie, but you haven't considered other possibilities. You are so emotionally attached to the probability that I'm the guy, that you blinded yourself to see other possibilities, and then. But he does it slowly, and he explains the reasons why he doesn't just immediately finger him, because he had to play it carefully, because he explained that to Cookie why he had to play it carefully, but he did, and part of the reason for playing it that way is to bring about a changing of nature in the relationship between him and the group. That is a signpost there, but he needs them to. He played it in such a way that will, not only, cause, I won't call him Phelps. It's Price. To kind of implicate himself, but also to cause the other to decide on their own that they, like the guy, that they like Sefton. Okay. So so that's why he played things the way he did, and I think that is reflected in the probability possibility dynamic, as well as, you know, combined with all the other elements from the other through lines. So yeah, let's just look at everything, the whole spiel in the story engine settings. Change, steadfast, doer, linear. We picked all
Hold on a
those.
second, sorry.
Oh,
That's that.
let's do it. It's got that bug.
Okay.
So the main character, which is the Barracks family, situation, present, work versus attempt, we picked that. Certainty, we talked about that. Deduction and induction, we talked about. Unique ability, attraction. All right. Weighed down by the critical flaw of reappraisal, which they are very slow to do. They're very slow to reappraise what
So
they've already made them.
That means the critical flaw is their inability to reappraise, or the difficulty. Okay.
I would assume so. A unique ability of attraction. Unique ability is tied to their ability to solve the overall story problem. Do you know how that should be illustrated?
Nothing jumps out right away.
What's the definition of attraction in Dramatica? What is it?
You should have the short.
Oh, just being drawn towards something, or
Because I'm just trying to figure out how that with the group is like a trait of theirs.
Drawing or being drawn to something.
What one is trying to achieve? Does that tie in with Dunbar? That ties in with them trying to get Dunbar out? Is that what that means?
I mean, you could stretch it and say they have an ability to lure the Germans to do what they want them to do because they're idiots. I don't know how too terribly complex a 1950s movie is as far as unique ability and
right,
but you know.
All right, so let's see what the others kind of work. Let's see signposts, how things are going. Things are obviously not going well, because again, the first signpost, the first thing that happens is they send the guys out on an escape plot, and it goes south, and so things are not going well. So it's like this is for the group. So the mood in the barracks, you know, is decidedly getting more negative. Future, the present, the past. Let's go to the overall story. All right, activity, gathering information, prerequisites versus preconditions. That's an issue of what is really, you know, required to fulfill something, as opposed to what somebody's insistence, you know, what somebody is insisting on. So what is logistically important versus what is subjectively important in terms of, you know, gotta do this before you do this. In terms of the overall goal of learning who the stoolie is, the prerequisites, I guess, is, you know, is just like catching somebody in the act. How would you define it, Jim?
Oh, I wouldn't, because it's the issue, and I don't think it's probably particularly strong.
Okay. But problem of certainty, solution of potentiality, see, symptom of probability. Okay, we covered probability and possibility. Catalyst of strategy. Catalyst is what kind of makes things, you know, move at a faster pace, and so the strategizing kind of does that. The inhibitor of expediency tends to slow things down, and that's when expediency usually means taking shortcuts.
Or
So-
doing what they should do.
Doing what they should do as opposed to what.
That's why I was using that example of when they, you know, do the soap attack. they pin him down, they start beating him because that's what they should do, and then that's never going to get the right answer.
Because that's the
Or
expedient,
the expedient
thing to do.
thing to do is get what's his name out of there as soon as they possibly can. I just think the signposts on these is really good.
All right. So learning, doing, obtaining, understanding. So how would you illustrate those in that order?
Well, learning, it's like learning. What is that? The commandant say when he comes out and wants to know how they escaped? Wasn't that right?
Yeah, who knew about this, or who, you know, well, he's coming out there and saying, you know, you need to learn something. Nobody ever escapes from Stalag 17 alive.
True.
But certainly, you know, that's when they realize somebody is passing information along to the Germans. All right. That's what really the plots where this is set in motion. Who is passing information along? All right. So that arguably is the impetus for the plot.
And then the doing is the cat and mouse stuff and the radio and just doing they playing volleyball with Germans, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then obtaining is when they capture.
That's when Dunbar comes into the picture,
right? And then, I mean, understanding is like they finally understand what's really going on.
Well, yeah, there's the understanding of, oh, I understand how he blew up the train. But there's also a certain, what's interesting is the misdirection. It's like the fact that Dunbar was in the water tank, I think does speak to whoever planned that really pulled a, he played on the fact that the Germans wouldn't have any understanding that somebody could hide in the, you know, they looked everywhere. And so it's like, I don't understand, where could he have gone? He didn't get outside the gates. He's not hiding inside the barracks. You know, so that's playing with understanding. They failed to understand how the scheme could work. And so, but that comes up once, and then that becomes an issue when Price, again, I keep wanting to say Phelps, when Price, you know, I mean, it's part of the learning concern, but when he finally understands what the scheme is, then that leads to the understanding this was the mole all along. This was the guy who was in the middle of this all along. He's German. I mean, blonde, blue-eyed. I mean, come on. Yeah, you didn't expect the Aryan guy to be a German agent. So I think all that understanding from all sides plays into how the climax comes about.
I was thinking too, because I was trying to come up with a better answer for the prerequisites. If aren't there like a set of rules in the camp as far as what you're supposed to do and behave like?
The Geneva Convention rules?
Yeah.
Oh, actually, that's way better. Okay.
Yeah.
That one's really good, but also, actually, that one's great.
Which is where the commandant lays down the preconditions to to countermand the prerequisites.
All right. Yeah, that totally kills what I was going to say. I was going to say, like, you know, who gets the radio this time, and just
all that, the
cigarette currency and all that stuff. So I guess it is there. It just doesn't seem like. You know,
no, I think you can find a lot of examples, and there's, you know, and some of those examples are kind of to the side of the main plot, but they're still kind of there as part of the environment. Problem of certainty in the overall story. Again, there's a problem because.
Actually, no, it's a lack of certainty in the overall story.
But is it like just the term certainty could be lack of or too much or
right? Yeah,
plenty of or
the wrong kind of.
Totally unsure of who's actually behind it all. Actually, that sounds better.
Yeah.
Whereas, and that's cool because then the main character is completely 100% over certain. So it's like they both balance each other out. It's just nice.
When you say main character, you're talking about the group?
So the main character through line, has an overabundance of certainty, and that's their problem. Meanwhile, there's a lack of certainty in the overall story, which is causing problems for everybody.
Yeah. Even the lack of certainty about whether or not Dunbar is actually guilty of what they think he's guilty of, and they need to get that.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, and then potentiality solves it because when people open up to other potential answers. Right. Okay.
Okay, so that's what that means is like the solution is look. Say that again. Is looking for the potential.
It's when people
of,
right is ultimately the solution for the good guys. All right, the way the good guys win out is that the Seth and the potentiality to be a hero, I mean, and what's interesting is Price kind of plays that card first. You know, let me go, and then Sefton steps in and you know, exposes him and says, no, let me go, and they're playing with, you know, there's you know, he's got this plan, so it's got good potential, and so we're going to play it, and it pays off.
Or even more so, his whole speech where he lays out Price's potential for being the stoolie is what finally makes him go, oh, okay, it could possibly be him, because,
yeah,
you know.
And again, that plays in both the OS and in the main character. All right, so let's see, strategy, and I'm still not completely sure how to illustrate strategy.
Strategy? Well, just the
well, there's a lot of strategy.
Germans, yeah, the strategy of back and forth.
Creating the smoke bomb using the ping pong balls.
Well, yeah, and also
as a smoke. As
oh,
a
that's a
smoke
good
screen.
one. But also passing notes back and forth through the little chess piece and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Right, which actually does catalyze the plot at various times. The inhibitor of expediency. Things slow down when things aren't. They have to get, you know, get everybody out of the barracks, and you know, and have a hard time doing it. I'm sure there are other examples, but
The influence character is awesome.
all right. So under unique ability.
Yeah, I mean.
Well, okay. What problem?
Look
We
at
talked about
everything.
inaction. Talked about investigation versus doubt. Inaction, protection, probability, possibility. We talked about those. Unique ability of appraisal. And critical flaw of repulsion.
That's the best one.
Okay.
That's the one I like.
That undermines his
Everything.
You
'Cause
know,
he's so repulsive.
right.
Can I go? Sorry, the expediency again. This may be going way out there, but just to try to understand, is also expediency an example of expediency? Is like the Betty Grable whole thing about how he wants to be, you know, animal, is looking for a girlfriend, and he's always crying that I ain't got nobody and everything. He had, so the expediency is they dance with each other, and he's got posters of Betty. Is that an example of expediency in the story, or is that just like really stretching it? And, I mean,
Just the fact that it doesn't relate to the central conflict.
of the
It's just
story.
it's just color.
Okay.
You know,
yeah, there's a lot of that in this.
It's kind of a B story.
Okay.
It's a sub story, right?
Yeah.
I was just
Um,
thinking maybe it was kind of like a metaphor of expediency.
Well, it could be. I mean, it actually, in a way, it could be a metaphor because what was the issue and counterpoint again? Prerequisites versus preconditions. Okay. Because preconditions is another thing. You know, it's like, well, okay, you know, going after the Russian women.
Yeah.
You know, I think you kind of see that played in there, but also the preconditions. Like, no, I only want Betty Grable. She's the only one for me. So that's a really strong precondition. So when Shapiro starts playing that role, well, at first he does it on purpose, but then it kind of like, you're getting a little close to me, dude. You know, yeah, I can feel what's coming through your pajamas.
I know it's funny.
I think, you know, maybe a certain amount of expedience. Well, I think that there is a metaphor for what do guys do when they're trapped here and they can't, you know, kind of, you know, fulfill their desires. Yeah, they kind of have to dance with each other. They have to, celebrate Christmas with each other, so they don't have their families, they don't have their girlfriends, and so there is a certain amount of expediency in terms of life in the barracks.
Yeah, their
going on.
their life state or whatever.
But where conflict really comes up is when getting the radio, so we can get news from the BBC. The male guy, kind of playing again that's also kind of playing the prerequisites for and expediency, and strategy, because when he's doing what he's just supposed to do, it's kind of he's just going through the motions, but then catalyst the strategy. Okay, guys, all right, close, put the curtain, put the blanket over the door, whatever. We've got a strategy. So that's when things start rolling again. So I think there's a lot of examples, and some of them more overt and some more subtle. But I still think you can make an argument that there's a consistency there. So we have, let's see, influence character, unique ability of appraisal, which plays with the reappraisal thing.
Well, because he's always right about everybody.
It's true.
Praises.
And
He's always right about everybody. He's such a repulsive person, and nobody's gonna believe him.
And he always wins when he makes a bet. It's like, well, he won again, even though they don't like the outcome.
There you go. You're right. That's a good example. He's always right, but nobody likes him, so that undermines his unique ability. Impulsive responses, well, there's clear
They freak
benchmark.
out in the beginning.
Yeah. Contemplation is like,
How could you possibly think it's me?
yeah, I can understand why you think it's me, but it's not me, kind of thing. Innermost desires is after he gets beat up, and he is kind of down in the dumps for a while, and that motivates some of his actions. Signpost 4 of memories.
Wow.
What?
You know it.
Go ahead.
Just
Yeah.
forget about me.
Oh yeah, forget about me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if we see each other on the street, we never knew each other.
Oh,
But
okay.
however, I will say this, that again, the closing scene, they're whistling, when Johnny goes marching home again. I think that's a clear, we're remembering Sefton.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, I like that. So all right, so it's pretty good. I mean, there's a few little points that we're a little shaky on, but I think 90% of it is pretty on the nose.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, I mean, some of it really look repulsive.
Yeah, we should just pick that first.
I know. Is there anything else that we do? Relationship. What was let's see, catalyst of need, inhibitor analysis. We kind of talked about that. We have developing a plan, playing a role.
How do
changing
those
the
signposts work out?
Signposts.
Signposts.
So
When was
developing a
that in
plan
the film?
is-
Between him and the group.
Well, developing a plan is
Is
Well,
developing a plan? I'm sorry. What did you say?
Were they developing a plan to escape in the beginning?
well,
Well,
no, it would
not-
be
not
their
really.
relationship. So that's when you that's when you start suspecting, conceptualizing how that could have possibly happened and what you're really doing behind the scenes.
You said that again?
Maybe. So it's the initial potential for their relationship, like a conflict. So it is the initial suspicion that he's behind it, and trying to visualize or conceptualize exactly how he could have done it and what kind of machinations are going on behind the scenes.
What week do we get together then?
We're getting together next week. We're going to be reading David's treatment. All right. So he's going to get that to me in the next couple of days, and I will email it to you.
Okay.
It's going to be 40 pages long or so?
I'm going to try to really
You
trim
can
it down the next
put
48
it in
hours.
the email.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll call you. I'll
Okay,
call you when I
thank
do
you.
that. Okay. All right. Thanks, Bob.
Good
See you, Bob.
Be safe. Let's see.
So then that sets up the potential, right? And then playing the roles is just the game playing back and forth.
When
Like
we
who's-
realize
Cooking the egg or whatever.
Yeah.
and then changing one's nature. I think their relationship changes when they go a little too far, and then it's like, well, now I'm not going to waste my time with you guys
Well, yeah.
after they beat the crap out of them. Right.
Yeah.
And then
the nature of the relationship definitely changes.
right,
Um,
because then it's like, oh, we're not friends, we're not anything. Forget you guys. I'm just gonna sit in my bed and pout.
Did you just do PRCO on that? Is that what you were doing?
Oh, yeah, I could be wrong because I think maybe it switches depending on stuff, but I just use that as like,
With how you figure out the samples or something?
yeah,
For all of them?
yeah,
That's-
but I don't know if that's necessarily correct.
there's a lot of things playing into the algorithm, but yeah.
And then,
And
and then conceiving an idea is just the end.
wrapping your head around the idea that I'm not the stoolie, somebody else is.
Right.
So
Now, when you have discussed signposts, in the relationship quadrant compared to like the main or impact character, is that like the signpost is reflective of both of them, or
yeah, it should be. It should be reflective of both of them in the room together.
so signpost 4 is conceiving an idea. It's like him
No,
changing his attitude toward. What does that mean exactly?
no. Think of their relationship, like them as a family or
Okay.
whatever their relationship is. That's why I said the change of one's nature is like the relationship actually changes.
Right.
So it's not like him just convincing.
After the fight, after the beating, and
Yeah, it's like everything. The whole dynamic's like
Okay.
completely flipped. Where it's like, I'm not even gonna.
yeah.
Before I might have traded with you guys. Now you take whatever you want. I don't
Mhm.
care. It doesn't matter to me anymore.
Take it. He actually says that. That's right.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
It's still.
To make sure.
Actually, that's better for permission. Yeah, the whole chest,
There you go.
right?
And the permission is the issue. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Influence character, critical flaw, repulsion. Got it. Already pixel one. I just want to put it on Chris's computer
Oh, okay.
to make sure I'm getting to make sure he has it. So now let's see.
Well, do you want to wrap
hang
up the show before?
Yeah. Any closing thoughts?
That was great.
Okay. All right.
Do you
Great.
want to say goodbye?
Yeah. We'll say goodbye. Thank you for everybody who joined us online.
Bye.